Now, guys, I'm going to bang a hammer here in just a second. So just giving you a warning. It is 6 o'clock, and I call the City of Commerce Special City Council meeting to order this December 13th, 2022. We are honored tonight to have Dr. Lavelle Hendricks, an employee of Texas A&M University Commerce and a longtime resident of Commerce for over 20 years, stalwart member of the community. He is a member of the East Caney Church in Sulphur Springs and a leader and mentor in the community. Dr. Hendricks, we're honored to have you. Please come forward and lead us in our invocation.
I guess she found prayer too. That's good. Let us pray. Gracious Father, we find ourselves assembled in this sanctuary here, this place to do the business of the great city of Commerce, Texas. For the mayor, for the council members, for the city secretary, for the city manager and other employees. I ask right now, Father, that they will always walk in the sense of Mary with a sense of humility. I pray that you would endow them with the boldness of a Peter, but more importantly, I ask that they would have the wisdom of a Solomon in conducting the affairs of this city. And Father, I pray that as we go forth during this blessed holiday season, that we will ever be mindful of the true meaning of what Christmas is all about. I pray, Father, that as citizens of this great town that we live in, that you would endow us with the spirit of fellowship. For us in Christ Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. We're also privileged tonight to have one of Commerce's very own basketball team leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Coach Tony Henry II is a 2008 Commerce High School graduate and also a former basketball player and graduate of Texas A&M University Commerce. He was the girls' head basketball coach for Commerce High School from 2019 to 2022. He has taught at Cooper ISD, Sulphur Springs ISD, and is currently serving in his second year as the Dean of Students at Commerce Middle School. His boys' basketball team won their first basketball game last Saturday, 23-26 over Quinlan in their Tri-County League game. The team includes the players Colin Davis, Arian Guerrero, Coach Henry's son, and Councilman Henry's son, grandson Caden Henry, Jackson Jacobson, Deshaun Long, Councilwoman Becky Thompson's grandson, Maddox Lytle, Brian Melton, Elijah Scroggins, Weston Wilkinson. Please join us as the Commerce Tigers boys basketball. We'll give them just a minute. Item 2 on the agenda tonight is the consent agenda. Do we have any questions on the consent agenda? There being none, may I have a motion for approval?
Mayor, I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item 3 on the agenda tonight is the presentation to the City Council by members of the public. The and address, please.
Robert Ford, 1002 North Neal Street. Did anybody remember me speaking up here a few months ago?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I had addressed at that time the commercial vehicles from the manufacturer coming down the residential street that does have a sign that says no trucks beyond this point. It was supposed to be investigated on what part of the city council or city member gave them the right of way. And then last month I noticed the $5 maintenance on my water bill. I don't have a problem paying that. Everybody's going to pay it. I don't have a problem. My problem is they could go down to 71, go up 71, I can't remember the street because I drove it one time, and go over to 24, and it's 10 miles. That's 1 gallon of diesel. I pay taxes, and I just don't feel there should be any lenience for them to bring their vehicles down Neal Street so they have quicker access to 19 or 24 or 11 when they have another way of getting out. And I'm very passionate about things like this, and I would hope that y'all would really take this in consideration. If any of y'all lived on that street, y'all would have a different feeling toward it, probably like I do right now. Last Wednesday, I came up, got to Park Street. I literally had to basically block Park Street so a tractor trailer could come down the street and pass me. I expect that street to be fixed. I have a pothole in front of my house. I see the list of streets on this in the next few years, and I don't see our street on there. It's a residential street. It's not made for commercial vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Are there any other? Yes, sir. Please come forward. I already know your name, but state it for the camera as well.
Yes, Lavelle Hendricks. I live here on Mangum Street. I would like to extend an invitation to the council for our annual MLK program that is scheduled for January the 15th, 2023 at Mount Moriah Baptist Church. Councilman Tony Hendricks' church has been so kind over the years to allow us to assemble there to celebrate this wonderful occasion. It is the only ecumenical multiracial gathering that the city of Commerce has during an entire calendar year. So I'm personally extending an opportunity for all of you to come. The program will be on Sunday, January the 15th, beginning at 2:30 p.m. If you can be in attendance, I ask that you arrive early so that you could possibly get a seat. Councilman Henry and our city manager, Howdy, can attest to the fact that it is a wonderful program. It is highly spirited, and it is a wonderful way that we began a great celebration here in Commerce. So I'm personally extending an invitation to all of you to come. Dr. Cephas Archie, who's the Vice President for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at the A&M Commerce, will be our featured speaker. In the past, we've had members of the Texas A&M system present. We've had members of the school board, members of the city council as well. So I'm just trying to give you an advance notice that if time permits on your calendar, January the 15th at 2:30 p.m. at the Mount Moriah Baptist Church, you're welcome to attend, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hendricks. Are there any others in the audience that wish to address the council? Okay.
138, it's through commercial vehicles and the unlawful operation, and it reads, it's unlawful for any person to operate a through commercial vehicle upon a street, boulevard, avenue, or alley within the city limits, except such commercial vehicle may travel or be operated upon any street, boulevard, or avenue designated as a through truck route. The ordinance then designates Culver and Highway 24 as the through truck routes. Well, the definition of commercial vehicle is clear, but there's no clear defining of what a through commercial vehicle is. In researching this through TxDOT and other agencies, a through commercial vehicle is one that started somewhere outside of town and their final destination is outside of town, and they're traveling through our community to get to wherever their destination is. Those through commercial vehicles by our ordinance are restricted to Culver and Highway 24. However, commercial vehicles that their destination is within the city limits, either for a delivery or a pickup of materials, those aren't through commercial vehicles. And so it's a little ambiguous on how we're supposed to address them. Most municipalities address those vehicles that if you've got a stop in our town you should take the most direct route to get there and then get back out and minimize the impact on our streets. We cannot prevent someone from making a delivery or picking up goods and services at a commercial or an industrial operation. And so I think we need to revisit this ordinance, clean it up a little bit. The final thing I'll say is I spoke with the manager of Legacy Homes, and we talked about the options to get him up to Highway 71. We do have some options to improve Beau Austin so that they would immediately turn north and go straight to 71. We can make some improvements to the intersection of Beau Austin and Highway 71 so that there's an appropriate turning radius for them to go any direction they need to. The challenge is, and I think it's the intersection you may be talking about, Highway 71 and Park Street. Both of those are, the last thing I'll say is under the current ordinance, it specifically says that Legacy Homes is the only truck home traffic that is allowed to operate in town. Definitions don't define what is a truck home traffic. And so we're being asked to stop Legacy Homes when the ordinance expressly gives them the right to operate within our community. The ordinance doesn't say, well, it says at no time will 2 truck homes be allowed on North Neal Street without a 10-minute gap, and it limits the hours that they can operate coming up and down North Neal. Those restrictions are expressly for Legacy Homes. You also have Bunker Industries in that same area. They also receive shipments to and from their industrial site, and the ordinance doesn't allow us to prevent them, and I don't know that state law gives us the authority to prevent someone from making a delivery or picking up from a commercial or industrial site. So the research we've done, we've got more work to do. I recommend that we look at this ordinance in January.
Okay. All right, appreciate that. Item number 4, council comments. Pursuant to the Texas Local Government Code, the purpose of this section is to allow some errors.
No, sir, I don't have anything.
All right. Moving on to item number 5, presentation of service awards to City of Commerce employees. Mr. Lisenby.
It has been a tradition within the City of Commerce within January to recognize those employees that have spent a portion of their career in service to our community and recognize the work and the knowledge that they bring to our organization. One of the values that comes to any organization, not just public service, is the longer someone commits to our organization, the more knowledge they have of our community, the more knowledge they have of our procedures, our systems, of our customs, our customers. And so lack of turnover provides consistency in how we operate. And so we want to thank and recognize those employees that have stayed with us so that we don't have that turnover issue. And additionally, we've made some changes to what we give as recognition. You used to get a piece of paper. We all love paper. It's a great piece of paper, but it may not sustain over the long haul. And so the new system now is when you've reached 5 years, you get your first foundation piece as well as the 5-year. And then as you go additional years, there is a 10, a 15, and tonight we even have a 20. And then we can go up to 25 or 30, and so they're in 5-year increments. But the point is that the community is better served by employees that have got tenure, that have got time, have got experience to know our systems and our community. And so tonight we have 4. And so our first is Ms. Genesis Barosa Salazar. And so Ms. Genesis, if you would come up here. Genesis is being recognized for 5 years of service within our community. Genesis was hired in October of 2017 as a communications officer for the Commerce Police Department, she remains a dispatch telecommunicator for us. By June of 2021, Genesis had received her intermediate level of telecommunications officer license, and we are grateful to have Genesis as our hero on the headphones in the City of Commerce. This is for 5 years of service for Miss Genesis. Next for a 5-year service award is Jamie Campbell. Jamie was also hired by the City of Commerce in October of 2017. She joined us as an accounting supervisor in the finance department. In October of 2019, Jamie was promoted to the finance director of the city and has served in that capacity since then. During Jamie's time as finance director, the city has seen multiple flawless audits. Let me say that again, multiple flawless audits. That is an accomplishment for any organization, but especially for one in which public funds are being used. Additionally, she's overseen improvements to our budgeting processes, and the transparency of our finances with the community. And our bond rating has improved during the time she has served as our finance director, which is also a big deal for our community. It shows the financial strength of the organization and the community that we serve. So, Jamie, thank you for 5 years of service to the City of Commerce. We now have a 10-year service award. Amanda Hull, would you please join us? Amanda, until recently, was Amanda Escobedo, but she recently was married and changed her name, and so we love calling her Mrs. Hall. I'm sure Cedric loves calling her Mrs. Hall as well. She was hired by the City of Commerce also as a communications officer in March of 2012. 5 years into her time with the city, she was promoted to office manager within the Commerce Police Department. Amanda has achieved her master level telecommunications officer license in 2021. This is the highest level of licensing a dispatcher can accomplish. To achieve a master level certification, you have to have 8 cumulative years of service and over 500 hours of training. So our community is very blessed and served well by Miss Amanda. This is for 10 years of service. Thank you. And finally, 20 years of service by Miss Rita Krodosel. Miss Rita, as we reach this level of service, it's important to acknowledge not only do these employees reach a commendable level of service in their career, but we are honored that they've spent that career with us. Rita was hired by the City of Commerce in July of 2002 as a finance clerk. By 2004, she was promoted to finance clerk 2. By 2013, she became the utility supervisor within the finance department. She oversees all of the customer billing for water, sewer, trash. If it's on your service bill, Ms. Rita is involved with it. She has a long-standing history with many of the residents in Commerce, and they know her by name. I think the greatest compliment that you can receive, as I've actually been told, I don't know that I trust the city, but I trust Rita. I want to talk to her. And so they come in and they don't want to talk to me, they don't want to talk to Jamie, they want to talk to Rita. I think that is a very high compliment. So, Ms. Rita, thank you for 20 years of service to our community.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lisenby. It's always a pleasure to see long-term employees and the benefit that they provide our community. Item number 6 on the agenda, discussion and possible action on a resolution amending, updating, and designating one or more authorized representatives as Texas Short-Term Asset Reserve Program, TechStart, signatories. Ms. Campbell.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So Techstar is like an investment fund, okay? And we have an existing Techstar account that lets us invest bond monies and that sort of thing. And it's come to our attention that the signatories on it, one of which is Mark Clayton and Brady Olson, have not been here in quite some time. And so it's just time to update the signatories. But because neither one of them is actually employed here, we have to do this through a resolution to update it. And because Howdy Lisenby and myself are both the investment officers for the city,
Having a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, thank you. Item 7, consideration of an ordinance amending ordinance number 2022-15, which adopted the fiscal year 2022-2023 fiscal year 2023 budget, providing for the adoption of amendments to the FY 2022 budget thereto as set forth in Exhibit A, and providing for an effective date. Mr. Lisenby, City Manager.
Mayor, Council, Howdy Lisenby. We are bringing an item today to to amend the operating budget for fiscal year 2023. We've had a number of conversations looking for ways to express our gratitude and demonstrate our thanks to the frontline staff and the workers that over the past couple of years have continued to serve through COVID, through Snowvid, through inflationary pressures. There's always opportunities to go somewhere else in this line of work, and we've got employees that have continued to serve with us, as demonstrated by our service awards. We have a 20-year service award. There's a level of commitment that they give to our organization. And so we've been looking for ways to express some of that appreciation and recognize the savings that they provide to our organization by staying, and the improved productivity that they provide our organization. And so council directed us to look for ways to accomplish that. Ms. Jamie did some research and found through some of the labor laws that as an organization, we do have the ability to give discretionary bonus award checks. And so we recently, at Christmas, gave some discretionary appreciation checks to our staff. And part of the labor laws require that it be discretionary, unplanned, and optional, if you will. And so in order to comply with those provisions within the labor law, we followed the direction of those laws as they're presented. The Texas Constitution and Texas laws, not necessarily contrary to that, but they state that you cannot grant public funds. And so a grant of public funds is giving of public dollars in which there is no good or service provided, or there is no public benefit to that. And so in order to comply with state law, we have the ability to amend the budget for unforeseen expenditures. And so we're asking the council to amend our budget within the Governmental Affairs Department. And we're looking to add $93,000 to Department line item 6028 for employee and public relationships or relations. And so this would recognize that expenditure within the budget and confirm that it serves a public purpose. And so we're happy to answer any questions that you may have. Staff is recommending adoption of this ordinance to amend the budget.
Any questions for Mr. Lisenby from the council?
What's the effective date that we want on this?
Upon passage.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
If I could, the text, I think, said December 20th. So
Okay.
just a little bit in the future.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So we want it for December the 20th.
That's December 20th is fine. Okay.
All right. There being no other questions, do I have a motion?
I move that we amend ordinance number 2022-15, set forth in Exhibit A with the effective date of December the 20th, 2022.
Second.
Okay, having a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item 8, discussion and possible action on an ordinance by the City Council of the City of Commerce approving the carry forward of certain fiscal year 2022 funds to fiscal year 2023 and providing for an effective date. Ms. Campbell.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So recently, I was at a governmental accounting training course, and they had actually the budget director
Budget
of
director
Plano.
for Plano.
And she was talking about a budget amendment that they do that is related to carry forwards. And I recognize that this is something that we do not do or have not done in the past, but I think that this is a best practice by GFOA that we should be doing. And what a carry forward is a project that we started in last fiscal year, and because of certain circumstances, and in this case, most of the circumstances are because shipping is delayed, shipping is delayed, shipping is delayed. But for whatever reason, we could not either pay the invoice or finish paying the invoice in the fiscal year of 2022. And it also would have been a project that we did not carry forward into 2023's budget. So the purpose of this is to take your fund balance that you have remaining from 2022 because you didn't spend it, because you weren't able to pay those invoices, and use that fund balance and adjust these expense line items for whatever projects are going to end up being paid in 2023. And the main purpose of that is so that you're not going to use up all of 2023's budget paying for last year's items, right? And so going through this, we actually only had 4 line items. 2 of them are in the general fund and 2 of them are in the public utility fund. So in the general fund, in the police department, we have a radio replacement for $3,000.20 or $3,020.75. And this is related to a supply chain issue. We placed an order to replace a CID vehicle radios in 2 cars, and we've just been waiting upon delivery. And so before we can make payment, we have to have delivery. And so we would just like to carry those funds forward. And I will remind you, a lot of these we've already made payments for, because now that we're in December, either we've already received the goods, and so it's just kind of bridging that gap. The second thing in the general fund is for Department 130, which is Public Works. And this is for a surveillance camera upgrade at their facility. And this again is just because I think everybody understands the electronic supply chain right now is much better than it was, but there's still lots of lags on some of the small parts, some of the little components. And so this was to begin fixing the cameras and adding additional cameras out into their yard, just to help with some of the surveillance issues that we may be having after hours and weekend hours and things like that. And the amount that we're asking to move forward is $3,437.91. So the total adjustment for the general fund would be $6,458.66. And then when it comes to the public utility fund, we have a surveillance camera upgrade at the water treatment plant. So we planned those at the same time so that we could just make one large order. But because they're in separate funds, So it's the exact same amount as the or as the public works, because we ended up ordering the exact same amount of cameras. It just worked out to kind of perfect, right? The parts, and I will tell you, all the parts have been arrived. We're just waiting for installing at this point. And then the last one is for the water meter replacements. On this, we try to place orders for water meters as we need them, knowing that they're backlogged. Because as the batteries run out in our existing water meters, and the parts run out of the existing water meters, we need to have something on the shelves, right, to replace them. And so the service center, Stacy Miller, he's wonderful at keeping those in stock, keeping those going, knowing which ones he needs to order. And so these are just a couple of POs that we had in the system that we were just waiting for them to deliver on. And so the total for that is $8,547.60. So the total adjustment for the public utility fund would be $11,985.51. So this is something new. It's something that I think that we should do. And it's also something that I would not expect to do until the November, December meeting anyways, because you want to get past your September close and make sure that these projects don't actually end up closing out, if that makes sense. So, does anybody have any questions? Okay.
Any questions for Ms. Campbell?
Okay, so the effective date is December the 20th or October the 1st, which we have in here? Because we're amending the
So I would do
October the 1st. Okay.
There being no other questions, may I have a motion, please?
I move that we take action on the ordinance for the approving the carry forward of certain fiscal 2022 funds to the fiscal year 2023, being the effective date of October the 1st of 2022. The amounts being general fund of $6,458.66, public utility funds of $11,985.51.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Campbell. City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. We're going to start with the finance update from our finance director.
Welcome back, Ms. Campbell.
All right, well, let's just jump right into sales tax, shall we? So sales tax in November has surpassed our previous year collections and budget. This is because of a biannual payment that was made in February last year, was made in November this year. Overall, we've received $292,000 and some change in sales tax revenue. I can tell you that starting in January, you will start seeing sales tax 380 agreement rebates. You won't see them in December, but you will start seeing them on the January report. So again, the large retail, that is related to the semi-annual payment that I mentioned previously. I know the manufacturer for last year looks really weird, but this is the rebate in the distribution with your accommodation and food services. So typically, we see your full-service restaurants at about 48%, and the orange is your mobile food, and we see that at 4%. And then we see your snack restaurants, this is crazy, your snack restaurants at only between 4 and 9. And so I started looking into it, and I realized that this shift is from Bodark Bash. This shift is from the food trucks and the carnival trucks, and so this is the shift. And so we still see a growth, we're still growing, we're still doing well, but it's just interesting to kind of see how that swing happens. And where it comes from. So that's where we see that shift. And so we should see it next month kind of go back to the normal distribution that we're used to. Any questions on sales tax before I move to property tax? Wonderful. So in property tax, so in property tax revenue, it continues to grow into November, reaching a collection rate of 6.5% of our budgetary tax levy. The total we have collected is $251,000 in property tax revenue as of November. We have not done any additional abatements since October. It still remains at that $19,000. Our delinquent tax payments have increased. And again, this will just start slowly climbing until we get to January, when everybody does a mad rush to Hunt County and starts paying all their tax bills. Okay. So, last but not least is our financials. And no surprise, but we're under budget for the first month of the fiscal year, which is always nice to see. You don't ever want to see it go really high in October unless you have a really good reason. So every department is under their monthly budget for October, if that makes sense. And overall, we are about 10,000 or so under budget. So I said 10,000. It's been a long day. So overall, we're doing really well in the general fund. Public utilities, you'll see that it's a little bit of a shift. The water production department, this is that really large one-time payment that we make to Sulphur River. And on the revenue side, we've already billed Upper Trinity. And so they offset each other, but it always throws water production. It always throws them out of whack for like the rest of the year. For like the next 8 months, they're going to be a little bit over budget because of it. But if you were to take that out, they would be under budget just like the other departments. Does anybody have any questions on financials?
Any questions for Ms. Campbell? There being none, thank you, Ms. Campbell.
All right, thank you.
So it's that time of year, mayor, council, city manager, where our special events, upcoming events tend to slow down before we transition to the 2023 year. So I'll keep this short and sweet. As a reminder, City Hall observes any holidays that occur on a Saturday, we observe on a Friday. And if it occurs on a Sunday, we observe that holiday on a Monday. So City Hall will be closed December 23rd, which is a Friday, as well as Monday, December 26th, for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Additionally, New Year's Day falls on Sunday the 1st, so we will observe New Year's Day on January 2nd, and City Hall will be closed on that Monday. So that's a reminder to the public. You can still pay utility bills online, but our doors will be closed those days. Looking ahead in 2023, January 1st kicks off baseball registration. I can't believe it's already here. So baseball season, I don't believe, starts till April, May, somewhere around there. But they'll begin registration early on January 1st. We've already had people asking questions, so that'll start. And then looking ahead to the May, I believe it's 6th, 2023 general election, we'll have city council places 1 and 3 up for re-election for a 2023 through 2026 term. Here's looking at you, Tony and Stephanie. The filing period to file for a place on the ballot occurs from January through February. So you'll have from January 18th through February 17th to file for a place on the ballot to run for either place 1 or place 3 on the city council. And again, that's for the May 6th of 2023 general election. And that's all I have for you.
Thank you very much.
Concluding our report on personnel, I'm going to try on a monthly basis to bring you should have this one-page document that shows where we're at in terms of positions and vacancies. I told Ms. Jamie that I would take credit for all of her work, but she's the one that put these numbers together. and formatted them so well. So thank you, Jamie. As a city organization in total, we're authorized for 114 positions. The majority of those are full-time, but that also does include some part-time positions. We have 19 vacancies currently, and so you can see the departments where many of those vacancies are located. A couple of note, 5 vacancies in the fire department. Chief, I believe those are all part-time firefighters. And then we have 3 vacancies currently in the police department. We have 3 vacancies at the water treatment plant, but 2 of those vacancies are filled with temporary workers. One of the things that we do, there's a temporary work agency called Express. And for some of our staff positions, we can go through the process of advertising in the newspaper and advertising for applicants. And so for some of our larger, more responsible jobs, we go through that process. But many of our frontline workers, we will actually hire a temporary through Express, and we get to, I guess you could say, test drive and kick the tires a little bit. And so we can, at a very low cost in terms of advertising, we can get an employee and we don't have to pay them benefits, and they work for us on a temporary basis. And if they turn out to be an effective worker, then we just hire them and make them one of our employees, and then we start paying them benefits at that point in time. We've actually had some pretty great success of landing some high-quality employees through that program, and it actually works a little better than the traditional run ads in the paper and wait and wait and wait, and then someday do interviews. And so we've been able to keep some of our teams more fully staffed, and we've had some success there. So of the 19 vacancies, we currently have 4 of those vacancies filled with temporary employees. And so we want to keep that in front of you and let you know as we have fluctuations in our employee count. And I'll go back to the comments we made at the beginning for our service awards. This community is better served when we have employees that stay with us and continue to serve our community. And so we look for every opportunity to hire local, train local, and keep the staff local that serves our community, because when it's their community, it matters more. And so we work very hard to keep staffed with good people. I'll conclude the report talking about some of our important projects that we have going on. A project that we've talked about literally for the 2 years I've been here is the Motor Control Center for our raw water pump station out at Lake Tawakoni. We met with the contractor and the engineer this week. We are on schedule to finish that job before Christmas and meet the December 31st deadline that the grant agency gave us. And so that is incredibly good news, and we're very thankful. The contractor has really stepped up and has pulled us out of the fire on that project. And so we're looking forward to, I don't know that we're going to drive all the way out there for a ribbon cutting, but we may go at least take some pictures, because it's going to be really nice. But we will satisfy the required deadline for the grant program. For the public, if we didn't hit that deadline, we lost $500,000 in free grant money. We don't like losing $500,000 of anybody's money, much less free grant money. And so finishing on time
Excellent.
makes a big difference. Water treatment plant, that project continues to be ongoing. As you know, we have 6 filters at the water treatment plant. 3 of the 6 filters have not worked for a number of years. And so we've been doing a rehab and rebuilding of all of those filters. They've got the first 3 rebuilt. They are holding water, which is a very important part of the treatment process. They hold water, they don't leak. And so 3 of our filters are completely reconstructed, but we don't have the valves that we need to put them online, because as Jamie talked about, getting supplies built and delivered in this environment is incredibly taxing. Those valves were ordered last year, and they're not delivered yet. And so we're just waiting on valves to show up. Once we get the valves, we'll be able to bring the 3 new filters online, and then start the process of rehabilitating the 3 filters we've been using for the past couple of years. We still plan to have that plant completely rebuilt by summer of next year. That's the plan. Splash Park continues to progress through construction. As many people have said, we were digging our way to China. At that location, there is the old city pool. Many will remember that. The geotechnical work, which is the dirt work you do below the surface that impacts the foundations of your new construction, they're taking their time to make sure they get that soil treatment correct, so that you don't have a lot of movement and cracking in the splash park. We're still on pace to have that facility open for the kids and for the public in the spring. And finally, we've got a number of street projects where we're going to be completely reconstructing, rebuilding streets. That design is nearing completion. We should be bidding that work out so that construction will begin in the spring of 2023. Most notably, you will see Washington Street from Live Oak south all the way to Culver. We'll completely replace all the utilities, and then we will rebuild and resurface new street, new curb, new gutter, so that Washington Street will be improved. We're going to reconstruct Park Street from Maple through Aldridge down to Culver. That's the portion of Park Street that we actually control. From Maple north is TxDOT, and we don't really get to touch TxDOT right of way. And then we will rebuild Hickory Street, a 2 or 3 block section of Hickory Street, and then Monroe is just going to be crack seal. So we're not going to rebuild any of Monroe, but there's some noticeable cracks that have begun to develop. Monroe's in good shape. If we don't fill those cracks and get that sealed, it will begin to deteriorate pretty quickly. So you'll see some maintenance work on Monroe beginning this spring as well. So that's the update on those projects. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Lisaby?
Mayor, we do recommend executive session. As you'll see on the agenda, there's a lawsuit in which the city has been sued. A settlement offer was made, and we need to discuss that in executive session.
Okay. We have a motion to recess.
I move that we recess.
So at 6:53, we are in recess.
I move that we reconvene.
Second.
7:12.
So at 7:12, we have reconvened from executive session. There being no other business, I need a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
So with that being said, at 7:13, I adjourn the Commerce City Council meeting.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.